Hey there, welcome back to the Nihil channel. Thank you all so much for the support of the Shining Force content recently. That's been really amazing. So we're just gonna keep it rolling with some more mobile Heroes of Light and Darkness stuff. We're all pretty much assuming the game's gonna be a gacha at this point, and that means we're gonna need lots and lots of characters for you to be able to play as. Fire Emblem Heroes just added their 960th somethingth hero, so if we want to catch up or be even close to as successful, we've got to get to work filling up some character slots. So, to help out the developers at Hive with some ideas, here are my top 10 oddball picks to be included in the game, for when they want to stray outside the normal playable rosters just a little bit. So my number 10 pick is Chell. I first played Shining Force 1 when I was really young. My mom brought home the Sega Smash Pack on a CD-ROM, and I put it in my Windows 95. To some of you younger people out there, that might have been a completely different language. I was so young, I wasn't even reading much of the game. I actually missed recruiting Xylo even because of that. Yeah, you can do that. I've told that to people before, they got really confused. But since I didn't even read, I didn't know to even go see him. So my first playthrough, I never actually saw Xylo, so there was no reason for me to ever go cure him. I even ended the game with the Lunar Dew in my inventory, because I at least recognized that that icon looked important. Poor Xylo. But anyway, I wasn't reading much, so I relied on patterns. And a big pattern I noticed as a kid was, if they have a portrait, then the character is playable. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to recruit Chell, because she had a portrait, so it had to be possible. It isn't, of course, you know, if you've played the game, but it's the first time that that pattern didn't really work out for me. Chell tells you when you're visiting with her in Worrell to, quote, visit again once your quest is over so she can show you around. I was convinced that it was some sort of New Game Plus thing, so I tried every single playthrough. So she's my number 10 pick because it'd be fun to see what the devs could do with her. Maybe letting her use magic to summon water wherever she goes, maybe she just swims through land. I don't know. It might look janky no matter what, but I'm sure they could come up with something interesting. My number 9 pick is Atrent. Everyone in Monarena talks about him as being the wisest mage at the mage school, so he must be something pretty special, right? You would think so, but we never find out, and I think that's a shame. He's another one I thought maybe you could recruit, though I wasn't quite as convinced as I was with Chell. I'd love to see what amazing magical powers he has to be respected so much by all these other mages. Maybe we'll also get some insight into what race he is, since he appears to have 3 eyes. Maybe he's even like one of the ancients or something, since he seems to know so much about them. He's just a really mysterious figure, and playing as him I think would just be a lot of fun. So that's why he's my number 9 pick. My number 8 pick is Creed. Similar to Atrent, we don't ever get to see Creed's true power, but he seems way more powerful than pretty much anyone around him. He talks about growing weaker with age, but at one point he was a greater devil, which puts him on the same level as Xeon, Dark Soul, and Michaela, so he had to have some serious power once upon a time. Even still, though he claims to be weakened from old age, he has an entire town in a single room of his mansion. Who knows what else he's capable of, even as he currently is. I'm apparently also not the only one to have had that thought, as a user by the name of Corsair on Shining Force Central was working on modeling Creed as a playable character some years ago. I don't know if anything ever came of it, but he seemed to be making some good progress on it at the time, and I've got that model for you on screen now. I think it looks really good. I really like the coloring, and it seemed like he ran into some issues with that, but I really hope that even if it's all this time later, he can get it smoothed out and we can get a playable Creed, because that'd be really cool. Both in the mobile game and maybe as a mod. So Creed is my number 8 pick. My number 7 pick is Volcanon, for also a lot of the same reasons I chose Creed. In the lore, Volcanon created the Earth, and in Shining Force 2, he's able to hold back all of the forces of darkness by himself for a while, without even really being seen. And it's never really explained how he does that, but, I mean, he must be insanely powerful. Along with all that, Peter is his servant, and Peter is one of the most powerful characters I've seen in the entire TSRPG genre. So Volcanon must be absolutely amazing, as far as we know. And as far as we know, he's the only deity we've seen in Shining Force, I think. I'm not positive on that, but I think Volcanon is the only deity. And I don't think this precludes him from being playable, because Fire Emblem has added their deities to their mobile game in Milla, Duma, and Ashera. That's the names of some of those characters. So I think Volcanon is definitely a possibility. They just have to nerf him some so he doesn't Thanos snap the Earth out of existence, because then we won't have a game to play. But even just his statue in Shining Force 2 is really, really captivating. If you want to call it a statue, his altar, whatever. But just standing in front of it, you just kind of get, I think I get this sense of awe. I'd really like to get a better sense of what Volcanon can actually do to be worthy of such splendor. Number 6, this one's a little bit weirder, but the Priest. The guy that saves your game in Shining Force 1. He goes on and on about the powers of light, but now we could give him the chance to really show them off. I'm half joking. I really do think he could be a fun character, though. And I have some ideas for that as well, for what his kit could be. Maybe he could unleash all of the poisons and curses he's removed from heroes over the years, helping you out. Or maybe he could just use light magic and blast people away. I don't know. But he could have some really fun voice lines, I think. Like, the powers of light will always be with you, because I'm coming along. Or, if you ever need a save, I'll be there. It's pretty silly, but Shining Force has always had a good sense of humor, so I think that they could definitely find some way to include him, even if it comes off as pretty goofy. Alright, this one seems obvious to me. Boken is a recurring character in Shining Force 1 and runs into you in several towns over the course of your journey. Earlier I talked about how as a kid I thought a portrait mana character must be playable, but I thought Boken must be playable even without one. He shows up everywhere. I guessed as a kid he was probably recruitable the final time that you see him, but he never does join you or gain a portrait. I think it makes a lot of sense for him to join as playable now, but one of my friends I talked to, who also grew up with Shining Force, thought the neat thing about Boken was that he's your friend despite never joining you, and I think maybe he's right. I'm not positive on that, but maybe Boken should just stay as he is, always crossing paths, but never staying with you. I'd like to know you guys' thoughts on that one. Maybe they could do something with Boken being part of an event, just a seasonal event, where you run into him every so often. Maybe he helps you out some, but he's never fully joining your team. I think that might be a good compromise. If you don't like that compromise, though, some of the fine people over at SF Mods have made some sprite work for him to be used in future mods, and he looks pretty good. It's been a combined effort by users Steve, Dan, and Erican84. I'm not sure he's actually been added to any mods yet, but I'll be surprised when I play them and see him at some point if he has. I try not to look at that sort of thing, so I'm more surprised when I'm actually playing. But I think the model looks really, really good. And as they're commenting on the Shining Force mods boards, I do think it's pretty amazing how great they got his backpack to look. And the portrait's pretty nice, even though it's just a combination of, I think, Max and Arthur. I think it really works for him. So hopefully maybe we get to play as him at some point. Alright, for my number 4 pick, remember that sense of humor I was talking about earlier? I'm hoping so, because my number 4 pick is the King of Ring Reef from Shining Force 1. He isn't ever named, but when you crash your ship nearby, he promises to get it fixed for you. You run off to explore town like normal and find the shops are attached to the castle. That's different. Suddenly, the king charges up to you and you realize he's the shopkeeper. Because why not? It's ridiculous, and I'd love to have him playable in a game where he lugs around weapons and healing items to throw at enemies. His ultimate move could be like fleeing and dropping large piles of gold behind him or something. Maybe it would slow the enemy. It may seem strange to get a non-named character in the game, but I do think it's going to happen sooner or later because the cast of Shining Force really just isn't all that large, especially if you want to add villains. So I'm just going to keep hoping for King Shopkeeper. There's no law against that, right? My number 3 pick. My number 3 pick is Chicken Max or the Chicken Mage. Either one would be pretty great. If you don't know what I'm talking about, in Shining Force 1, you can volunteer for an experiment in which a mage turns you into a chicken, and then you can run around town and everyone has new dialogue for you, either thinking you're cute, annoying, or just making them hungry. The mage who does that to you is super excited by her success, and she claims, if I can turn people into chickens, I can solve world hunger. Which is super dark, but I also think it's hilarious. She's definitely the supervillain that the Shining Force never stopped. Maybe she's just been doing that this entire time. I think that there's a really fun character build there for making her just this demented woman with definitely good intentions that is just overlooking the consequences of her actions. And obviously her kit could be that she debuffs people, and maybe she has a bite ability that heals her somewhat. Like she's eating them, I don't know. It's definitely more in that dark sense of humor, but I think that it could be pretty funny. Or you could have Chicken Max just by himself, and that could be a fun gag character where he pecks people and maybe his stats are pretty low. I don't know. I think it could be either of those could be a pretty fun addition. For my number 2 pick, we're starting to get more obscure now, but it's the actors from the play in Shining Force 1. When you come to a town in the game, there's a theater, and a man asks if you want to watch a play. If you say yes, you can sit down and watch the heroic forces of Runefaust defeat the lowly forces of light. Meaning a knockoff version of yourself, in that case. So we could get either Imposter Max, that's in like cardboard armor or something, or just a super handsome Rune Knight. And both probably would have pretty bad stats, since they're not actual fighters. But it could be a fun throwback. They could definitely have some fun art. I don't know if the characters in the game are going to interact with each other, but that could also set up for some really fun moments where people are really confused that Max looks different, or remark about how handsome and gallant that Rune Knight just happens to be. Definitely a weird one. If they got added, I could see some people thinking that we're running out of characters, but I think they could be really fun. So they are my number 2 pick. That brings us to my number 1 pick. Alright, I'm gonna need you to really bear with me now, and realize I'm not joking. My number 1 strange character pick is that guy. No, not the king. Not Varios. That guy. I don't even know what to call him. I thought he was the king's advisor, but that's Nova. So this guy's job is just to stand there and watch his king get murdered, I guess. Some of you are probably thinking, is he serious? Why this guy? Yes, I'm being serious, and why is because I always thought there was some secret to this guy. He has a unique sprite, and he's got a knife on his belt. So I figured, that means he can probably fight, right? Why else would he be carrying a knife? And since we never saw him defend his king, there must be some other way to make him do stuff. As an adult, this makes less sense to me, but as a kid, I was super convinced. And I think that part of that is just Shining Force has so many secrets, so many little small details that you've got to do these weird things to discover. I didn't find Hanzo and Musashi until I was literally an adult, and I had help. So it's not out of the question. Like, I was still finding new characters in every single playthrough for a really long time. So I really think it's not out of the question that this guy could potentially have some secret associated with him since he's got a unique sprite. I have no clue what his kit could be since he doesn't actually do anything in his original game, but maybe he could finally use that knife to redeem himself and defend something. So, yep, that's my number one pick, that guy. Maybe I'd eventually know what to call him too, and I could have a name for him. So that's my entire list. Let me know what you thought. Or is it? Is that my whole list? My number 0 pick is Gilius Thunderhead. I know he's from Golden Axe, but he's also from Shining in the Darkness as a shopkeeper. He's made cameos in a ton of Sega games like Sega Heroes on mobile, another mobile game I used to play before it died. And he also shows up in Sonic and All-Stars Racing and even Sega Superstars Tennis. Gilius has just been memed a lot for some reason. I'm not entirely sure, but I've just seen tons and tons of weird videos with him in it. It seems like there's definitely a community out there that really, really loves this guy. And the reason he's kind of my number 0 pick is because if you've played Shining in the Darkness, it makes a lot of sense, but if you haven't, it's really obscure. And I don't think many people have played Shining in the Darkness. I haven't even played Shining in the Darkness fully. I'd like to do that on this channel at some point. But I think it would be fun for him to be included here. It's been decades since we got a new Shining Force game, so I'm not in a hurry to include lots of cameos or crossovers. But I think Gilius would be okay because he's been here since it all started. Since he was from the very, very first game, I think it's only fitting that he gets to be a part of this too, if it is successful and, you know, the Golden Axe people want to include him as well. I think his kit would probably be good to just give him stuff from Golden Axe, swinging his axe, giving him some of his cooler magic attacks, because that game has a lot of really cool magic attacks. So now, that's my list, for real this time. I hope you enjoyed it and it gave you some ideas for characters that you might want included. Let me know in the comments what your weirdest character picks are, and I'll respond to probably most of them. Unless your idea is just terrible. Maybe I'll do an entire second video where I do hypotheticals for just ones that you guys have picked, and we'll look at some of your best and maybe some of your worst ideas. So, let me know in the comments what you guys think, and I will see you all next time.
Time don't feel so linear, with heartbreak so far.